And joining us now is David Martin, our national security correspondent. David, you've been listening to this conversation. When you speak to the Pentagon, are they any more clear on whether it is now established U.S. policy to shoot down any UFO over North America?
I don't think they have a policy. I think if a balloon or an object like the last two, Friday and Saturday, is impinging on commercial aviation space, these both were up at about 40,000 feet, which is just the edge of commercial aviation. And if you don't know what they're doing, then you shoot. And that's what they did in these two cases.
It's an expensive habit.
It's an expensive habit, and also it may be a bad habit because you don't want to shoot first and ask questions later. But at least now that they're down, we're going to get some answers. The Canadian Prime Minister says he has a ground search team at the wreckage that went down over Canada. They are not yet at the wreckage that went down just off northern Alaska because they're dealing with something like minus 45-degree temperatures. But sooner or later, we'll get that wreckage and we'll know.
What do we call these? They're being called objects because the military doesn't really have a term they want to share with the public about them. Are they balloons? What are they?
I would call them balloon-like objects. They do not appear to have any maneuvering capability. They appear to be floating along at the speed of the wind. I just don't have a better word for that than balloon-like.
And the prime suspect is China.
I wouldn't say that.
No?
I wouldn't say that, no. The prevailing wind brings everything that way, from west, east, across northern Alaska and northern Canada. And there is a lot of what officials call sky trash up there. And sky trash includes balloons that are put up by governments, that are put up by corporations, that are put up by research institutes, and probably just by private individuals. And not for nefarious purposes, but just to collect scientific data. In the past, the U.S. just hasn't paid much attention to those balloons. But this Chinese balloon was a game changer.
Yeah.
And now, certainly the Biden administration does not feel it can simply let these other objects pass through American airspace.
There were reports out of China about preparing to shoot down objects in their airspace. I know when you were here last week, you warned about the risk of miscalculation.
Sure. I was talking about reconnaissance flights. So we don't, as far as I know, penetrate Chinese airspace with our flights, but just do it around the periphery. Chinese have a history of coming out and buzzing those planes, and sometimes it gets pretty darn close. And now, in the wake of this balloon incident, you wonder how much closer it's going to get and whether the U.S. needs to take precautions. I asked the Secretary of Defense about that in an interview this week, and he just, said, "You can be sure we are going to take all measures necessary to protect our planes."
And I imagine that's one of the things he wanted to speak to the defense minister about, although that phone call was not answered by his Chinese counterpart. David, thank you.
Sure thing.